Are you a fan of weird things? Because I definitely am. I have a fascination with cryptids and ghosts and things that are paranormal and go bump in the night. And that fascination just continues to grow. And the more I read about it, the more I go further down the rabbit hole, as one might say. So today we're going to talk about the book, The White Monsters of Sherman, New York. And this was put out by the Mothboys podcast. I discovered the Mothboys through Instagram. I am a fan of Mothman. I wore my Mothman hat. It just seemed appropriate because I'm talking about the Mothboys podcast. So the Mothboys podcast is Matt, Jake, and Michael, or Mike. I'm not sure if he goes by Michael or Mike. Maybe both. And so they have a podcast that is about cryptids, conspiracies, and the unknown. They have a fantastic humor, and they're kind of goofy. And so I listened to a couple of the episodes of their podcast, and one was about missing time, and the newest one, as of this recording, is about the Mantis Man of New Jersey. It's pretty funny. The beginning is a lot of them, like, with their banter, you know, talking about what's been going on in their week and whatnot. You'll learn about such things in missing times as Brian Pickles, who might live in a cave in Alaska and is furry and gray. That's not who Brian Pickles is. But if you listen, you'll find out he's not so great. The missing time and the weird stuff that happens that they talk about in the episode is pretty fantastic. And then the newest episode with the Mantis Man was really interesting as well. Also found out that one of the Mothboys has a Willow VHS tape that they never returned to the library many years ago. I wouldn't either. I actually still have a VHS player, and I have a small collection of VHS tapes. Anyway, getting so sidetracked. I wanted to talk about the podcast a little bit. I'll have a link down to their podcast as well, so you can check that out if you're into cryptids and weird stuff. Mothboys, they're funny, they're fun, and they just put out this book, which is pretty fantastic. It's got some really awesome illustrations in it as well, and this book came about because they were originally, all three of them are kind of like from this area. They had read the book by John Keel, which I've had this book, and I didn't know this is where it came from, but it's Strange Creatures from Time and Space by John Keel. There was a letter in it, and I saved it to the letter. I'll actually read you the letter because it's not very long. Letter from a young man in Sherman, New York. I'm writing because about 3 or 4 years ago, circa 1965 to 66, I saw a white monster in a swamp beside our house. I've been seeing these things ever since then and close to our house. One night, it came down in our yard. It stands between 12 and 18 feet high, which is huge. It has a long tail between 6 and 8 feet long. It is all covered with hair. They're always white. I've seen them alone or 2 at a time. It can walk on 2 feet and it can walk on 4. It is almost a double for a prehistoric sloth. My whole family has seen this thing, and I know 2 more men who have seen them. I am 15 years old, and I'm not kidding. I have seen these things, and they are real. Just a short little letter in this book by John Keel. And if you don't know who John Keel is, he may be most famous for the Mothman Prophecies book that he wrote about the Mothman of Point Pleasant and the Silver Bridge events that happened. There's also a movie. So he was way into paranormal and cryptids and all kinds of strange things and was well known for that. And so he has several books that he's written. So they were fascinated with this letter. They were able to track the guy down. His name is John Goodwill, and he now lives in Ohio and is a teacher. But at the time he lived in the Sherman, New York, where these weird creatures were, and they tracked him down. And in this book, he talks about like the different encounters he had, about like his dad didn't believe him at first and thought he was lying and made fun of him until the dad actually saw them themselves, and it goes over all the encounters, and I thought it was really cool and fascinating. So I tracked him down in 2022. There's pictures in there, illustrations of these weird creatures. This is the same one that's on the cover, but there's a bunch of other ones. I don't want to spoil the book in case you read it. I'll also have a link to the book down below as well if you want to get that and add cool weird books about people's experiences with cryptids. All the weird stuff. Must grow the weird collection. It's short. It's a little novella. This will be fun. Take it camping with you. You know, think about weird creatures that might come get you in the night or during the day. Who knows? sit outside and read it, inside on a rainy day. There is no wrong way to read this book. If you like weird stuff, The White Monsters of Sherman might be for you. And definitely check out the Mothboys podcast if you're into all that stuff. Like I said, I'll have links down below to all that. The podcast, it's super fun. The Mothboys are goofy, and then they convey and talk about all the weird stuff and things, and it's pretty great. So if you are a fan of weird things and weird creatures and cryptids, definitely check out this book. And if you like books about cryptids and weird stuff, the next video coming up will be probably another book about cryptids or strange things of the paranormal sort. So stick around, check it out. And if you had fun hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.